Karis, firstly, congratulations representing Team GB in the McCarthy Games.
Thank you.
How did you get on? How did the teams get on, firstly?
Well, we were the first women's team for football to ever reach a medal match in McCarthy history. So we were history makers in that sense. We lost to Canada in the bronze medal match, but we had a lot of girls who were not fit for the age category, so we did incredibly well.
And was it a good, from a footballing point of view, was it a really good experience for you?
Absolutely. Not only just physically, because obviously it's so hot out there, but mentally as well, to have an experience like that internationally. If I could tell anyone to do it, I'd tell them I definitely could do it.
So it stands in good stead for your coming up. Now tell us about upcoming season. Harlow ladies?
Yeah, so Harlow ladies this year, with opportunities externally as well. After the backhand of the Euros, the Lionesses winning the Euros, women's football was definitely growing, so it's definitely the year to kind of get involved, kind of get your name out there, I guess.
And you encourage people to go down or go up and see Harlow ladies?
Yes, absolutely, this season, yeah.
But to explain to people, you were playing for Team GB in the McCarthy Games.
Yes.
So was this can you explain exactly what the McCarthy Games is?
So everyone in the Jewish community, every 4 years they go for whatever sport they want to partake in. They go fly out to Israel or fly out to wherever the games are taking place, and they compete in usually about 17 days of competition in their chosen sport, for obviously bronze, silver and gold medals. It's basically like the Olympic Games, where you're on camp with the team, you go to meet other countries from all over the world, other athletes from all over the world, and you compete against these other countries until the end of the day before the closing ceremony.
They have Paralympics out there as well, don't they?
Yeah.
Running at the same time, so it's able-bodied as well as the Paralympics, and they run it concurrently, don't they? It all runs at the same time. So I think we watched a wheelchair basketball game. That's really quite vicious.
It goes from all the way from junior athletes all the way to open athletes and masters, which is over 45. So the age runs from probably 13 all the way up to 50. So there's athletes all ages from all over the world in the same space for 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
I think there was around 10,000 athletes, was there? Something
this year,
like that this year.
Okay, so going back to the culture and heritage, how would you, because of the Jewish, the Team GB McCarthy Games, how do you identify yourself, Sally?
As a British national who is Jewish. I was always brought up to appreciate and understand that I was Jewish myself. Both of my parents are Jewish. Someone once said to me, you should never deny your heritage, and I think there can be a lot of pressure to conform to different things and maybe deny your background to a certain extent through criticism or people not understanding. So if anybody discrimination, so if anybody has ever asked me, or if there's ever a form that I fill out, I'm always Jewish, as are the children, due to it following the matriarchal line, and I think that's important. The children can make their own decisions once they get older as to whether they want to have that same identification, but it's something that I've always felt that I needed to do for myself and for them.
So in your life, is there anything that you observe that identifies you as British Jew?
I was always brought up to take part in celebrations. I went to synagogue as a child. I've been to cousins' weddings who are Jewish. I've got family who keep kosher. They'll go to synagogue. We have done that as a family, but it's not something we practice on a day-to-day. I think it's just about an understanding of who you are, where you've come from previously, your ancestors, and as they say, for what the Jewish population went through. I think it's important to not deny that part of you, and certainly from understanding yourself and appreciating who you are. I think that comes with it as well.
Do people often talk about the subject of the Holocaust to you, or do people bring it up? People don't say I'm of Irish heritage, but people don't come up to me about the 1847 famine, when a million people died. But do people do that with you?
Yeah, they will do. My uncles, my uncle's mother-in-law. She was in the Holocaust. She had tattoos and stuff.
Yeah, when we was in Israel, before we flew back to England, we went to the Holocaust Museum, and it's just, we had a tour guide who took us round, and it's kind of the history all from when it started to when it ended, and there's kind of like original pieces from the Holocaust, like old bombing shells, old shoes, clothes, pictures, diary entries, like we can all look at, and we just kind of went round as a team with the girls I was with, just kind of learning about it, or learning more if you did know a little bit about it already, and just kind of living through it, because you know it's a big part of the Jewish history, like it always will be. So we went to, that was on the before the closing ceremony, we went before we flew back.
I've been to the same museum when I went to Israel. I actually went with my school, which was St John's in Epping, and I told Karis about it, and we'd previously had a discussion, and I remember walking around and seeing the shoes and the bars of soap made from, you know, the human like remains that they had, and you know, some really awful experiences. And then one of the last things you do is you kind of walk through this walkway, and there's loads of pictures of people who died in the Holocaust, but then in stark contrast you walk out and you walk into this blinding sun on the side of a mountain, which is the most beautiful view, but you're coming out from this really quite dark experience. I mean, an incredible experience, but it's quite dark, you know, sort of the realization of what they went through, and what, you know, the things that they have in the museum, and the pictures of the people that died. You know, it's a really moving experience, and then you walk out and you're just in this blazing hot sunshine in the middle of this mountainside, which is just stunning. And the two contrasts couldn't have been any more different if you tried.
What did you think of the country of Israel? Did you enjoy going to Israel?
Well, you went when you were younger.
I went when I was younger. Experience I'll never forget. I stayed on some kibbutzes as an experience for us as school children. Incredible. You know, everybody kind of has their own job and their own role. My mother lived in a kibbutz at about the age of 22 for a couple of years. Her and her brother had moved over there, so I knew what a kibbutz was and how it worked. And we travelled. We went to Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Tel Aviv. Just, I mean, stunning country. I'll never forget walking off the plane, and you're greeted by the army there, and obviously they still have national service, and you were met with a guy with a machine gun. I'd never seen a machine gun in my life. You know, the most I'd seen was maybe a handgun outside of outside of Buckingham Palace or something like that. And it wasn't that they were there to greet us; they were just in the airport. But I just remember being like, "Whoa, you don't get this in the UK. You might do now, but you didn't back then." No. You know, this was in the sort of mid 90s, so that was, you know, definitely a wake up, you know, to wow, you know, this is what people do. And they were all very young, because it's national service, you know, it's 18 they go into national service. And I just think it's incredible that, you know, that they even now they still do it, don't they? So
Israel's beautiful. I mean, we stayed in a hotel with like all the GB athletes, so we didn't stay in the kibbutz, but we travelled to Tel Aviv, went to Jerusalem, was in Haifa for a lot of our time. And it's just, you walk around all the culture, like obviously we was there like all of July, so it was very hot, so we was walking around with all the people. We went to the Western Wall, we spent the day there. Some people had was the bar mitzvahs.
Oh yes.
One of the boys had a bar mitzvah, and it was just walking around all the towns and cities and stuff. Like, it's the same, it's also very different. You see it's all very naturistic, and you see lots of trees and nature, and then you walk around in the actual cities, and it's very much like London. There's very tall buildings, but it's all still very like
and Tel Aviv, I remember being very white.
Yes,
like the buildings, the beach, even the pavements.
Yeah, the beaches are incredible. Like, we spent the day at the beach with all of the athletes. We had like a beach party thing, and the beaches are beautiful. Like, the sand is like crystal white. Like, the sea is so clear, and it's warm as well. Nothing like the English sea.
Did you make friends? Or were you going to keep in contact with some of the players?
Yeah, I still talk to people from all over the world. I've got some friends in Canada, Australia, some from Brazil, Argentina.
Spain.
Yeah, I met someone from Spain.
And would you go back to Israel?
Oh, in a heartbeat. It's such a beautiful country.
It's culturally diverse as well. So with the McCarthy Games, anyone outside of Israel has to come from a Jewish heritage. But the Israeli contingency can be of any religion. You just have to be an Israeli national.
Yeah.
But it is, it's not, it's not just Jewish people. It's actually quite culturally diverse, and they're all encouraged to participate in the McCarthy Games as well.
And one of the themes of these interviews, and you're number 53 and 54 of these 75 interviews, is what do you define as home? Do you feel your connection to Israel and being British Jews means you've got a little added home as part of what is home to you?
When we during Shabbat on a Saturday, we did a workshop with Natan, who was one of the members of the coaching squad out there, and he speaks kind of fluent Hebrew, and he follows kosher, and he's a lovely guy. And when we was doing one of the workshops, he was saying, if you're part of the Jewish community, Israel will always be a homeland, and you always have somewhere to go. If you want to feel a connection, or if you want to come back to somewhere that isn't home but will still be home if you want it to be, and that's. It could kind of tell that everyone who said that to in the room, because there was quite a lot of us in there, maybe 50 of the athletes were in there. Like everyone kind of realization, like there is a bit of a connection to the country, especially when you're there for a while with the same group of people, experiencing the same things. It's like, it's a little like homeland. As his words were, it's a Jewish homeland where people can go to and feel connected to their.
And I think there's a connection, sort of where my mother's been, and I always took the experience that she had, and obviously I went, and obviously now my daughter's gone, and it does, there is a sense of connection there, in the sense that when you go, the Jewish community is very, very accepting and very embracing, so because I couldn't go to the games, all the parents were looking after Caris, as if they were her parents.
Yeah, after the games and stuff,
they'd say, we're going to go to the shops, what do you need? And
or even after the games, like when after like 90 minutes of scorching heat and running around, like it's very exhausting, like kind of giving you hugs at the end and congratulations and pictures, and just overall just loads and loads of support, as if you say, like as if because you weren't there they were kind of giving double what they could.
So, and I think that just goes across anywhere, and maybe it's in every religion. I couldn't really say, but it's certainly been something within our household. My dad used to go to the pub on Christmas Eve, and then he'd come back with the guy that was going to go home and be on his own. And so pull up a chair, stuff like that. And there's always a space at the table.
Yeah, always.
People, my husband always says to me, Sally, why do you cook so much? And I say, well, I'm a Jewish mother. I don't know how to do small portions.
We eat and eat and eat.
And some, Jewish people take, there's a certain element to the food side of things. You go on and there will always be enough, even if 10 more people turned up. And that, again, that comes from my family and, my parents, my grandparents.
It's always like when we go to visit grandma and grandpa, it's always like, oh, do you guys want this? Or like we'll go around, it's like, oh, there'll always be extra stuff they want to give to you in it. Like,
are you hungry? No, okay. Do you want a sandwich?
Just going to let you food anyway.
No, I'm alright. I've got some mozza. Do you want some mozza?
Or even just kind of gifts and stuff, or like clothes or something that they're always willing to give whatever they have.
think the Jewish the way that Jewish people are is that they are very hospitable, and again, that's not saying that any other religion isn't. I just think that the Jewish religion in particular can be very hospitable in the way that they will, as I say, come and sit around my table.
Sally and Caris, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.